Imagine a story where God speaks through a donkey. What could such an extraordinary event teach us about the divine, and perhaps about our own animal companions? Our journey begins in the ancient plains of Moab, a land gripped by fear. King Balak, ruler of Moab, watched with growing dread as the vast Israelite multitude, fresh from their triumph over the Amorites, encamped near his borders. Their numbers and their God-backed victories were a formidable threat. Desperate, Balak turned to a renowned figure whose reputation for spiritual power extended far and wide. Balaam, a prophet and diviner from Pethor, known for his ability to bless or curse with potent effect. Balak dispatched esteemed envoys, laden with gifts, to summon Balaam and persuade him to curse these encroaching people. Upon their arrival, Balaam, sensing the gravity of the request, instructed Balak's officials to spend the night, promising to relay God's answer in the morning. That night, the Lord himself appeared to Balaam, asking, "Who are these men with you?" Balaam explained Balak's plea to curse Israel. God's response was immediate and unambiguous. "You shall not go with them. You shall not curse the people, for they are blessed." The divine command was clear. Balaam, at this point, obeyed. He rose the next morning, informing Balak's envoys that the Lord had refused to permit him to accompany them, and they returned to their king with the unwelcome news. But King Balak was not easily deterred. His fear drove him to even greater lengths. He sent a second delegation, more numerous and more prestigious than the first, carrying promises of immense wealth and honor. They implored Balaam, "Do not let anything keep you from coming to me, for I will surely do you great honor." Tempted by the lavish offers, Balaam, despite God's clear initial refusal, once again sought divine counsel. This time God allowed him to go, but with a stern and critical warning: "Go with the men, but only do what I tell you." This conditional permission underscored God's patience, yet foreshadowed the perilous path Balaam was about to tread. The sun, barely a promise on the horizon, cast long shadows as Balaam, having once again disregarded the spirit of God's initial refusal, rose early. He saddled his faithful donkey, the same companion that had carried him on countless journeys, and set out with the Moabite officials. His heart, perhaps still wrestling with the lure of Balak's riches, propelled him forward, yet his path was already marked by divine displeasure. The scriptures tell us plainly, God's anger was kindled because he went. Despite the conditional permission, Balaam's underlying motive, his eagerness for gain, had ignited a celestial storm. Unseen by the prophet, an unseen obstacle was already taking shape on the dusty road ahead, a prelude to a most extraordinary intervention. As Balaam rode, oblivious to the gathering divine wrath, the unseen angel of the Lord took its stand in the road, sword drawn and glinting with ethereal light. Balaam, his spiritual eyes still closed, saw nothing. But the donkey, a creature of instinct and perhaps a deeper, unacknowledged perception, beheld the terrifying vision. With a sudden, desperate surge, the animal veered sharply off the road, plunging into a nearby field. Balaam, startled and enraged by this seemingly irrational act, struck the donkey with his staff, forcing it back onto the narrow path. He saw only disobedience, not the divine protector standing silently before them, blocking their perilous way. His anger, born of ignorance, was a stark contrast to the animal's fear. The journey continued, but the unseen obstruction persisted. The angel of the Lord, resolute in its divine mission, moved to a still narrower passage, a path hemmed in by stone walls on either side, offering no room for escape. Once again, the donkey alone perceived the fearsome figure blocking their advance. Trapped between the angel and the unyielding wall, the animal pressed itself tightly against the stone, its desperate maneuver crushing Balaam's foot in the process. Pain and fury consumed the prophet. He lashed out, striking the donkey yet again, his cries of anger echoing in the confined space. How could this normally obedient creature be so stubborn, so reckless? Balaam's physical pain only deepened his spiritual blindness, preventing him from seeing the very entity that sought to save him. Still, Balaam pressed on, his resolve hardened by frustration. The angel of the Lord, however, would not be deterred. It moved forward to an even more constricted spot, a place so narrow there was absolutely no way to turn, no possibility of bypassing the divine sentinel. For the third time, the donkey saw what its rider could not: the angel, sword poised, directly in their path. With no other option, no avenue for escape, the animal simply lay down beneath Balaam, refusing to move another inch. This final act of stubbornness pushed Balaam past the brink of rage. He dismounted, seized his staff, and began to beat his faithful donkey with a furious, unbridled anger, his curses filling the air. He saw only a defiant beast, unaware that this abused animal was his only shield against a swift, divine judgment. The narrow path, still shadowed by the unseen divine presence, held its breath. Balaam, his staff raised for yet another blow, stood poised in a fury that blinded him to all but his own frustration. His donkey, having collapsed beneath him, seemed to absorb his wrath silently. But then, a sound entirely unexpected, utterly impossible, broke the desert stillness. From the mouth of the animal, a clear, articulate voice emerged, questioning its master with an almost bewildered tone. "What have I done to you, that you have struck me these 3 times?" The words, imbued with a miraculous clarity, hung in the air, transforming the immediate scene from one of common anger to one of profound, shocking wonder. This was no bray or grunt, but the direct, undeniable voice of the Lord, speaking through the lowliest of creatures, turning the narrative on its head and freezing Balaam in mid-strike. The prophet, a man accustomed to hearing divine voices, found himself so consumed by his own rage and immediate circumstances that he responded without a moment of true comprehension. His spiritual dullness, evident in his inability to see the angel, now manifested in his incredulous reply to a talking donkey. "Because you have made a fool of me," Balaam retorted, his voice still laced with fury. "If there had been a sword in my hand, I would have killed you by now." He spoke to the animal as if it were a disobedient servant, utterly missing the earth-shattering miracle that had just occurred. His focus remained entirely on his perceived humiliation and the obstruction of his journey, rather than the profound implication of a creature suddenly endowed with human speech by divine power. The absurdity of the situation was immense, a testament to Balaam's deep spiritual blindness. Yet the donkey persisted, its voice a gentle, logical rebuke against Balaam's unthinking anger. It challenged him with a simple, undeniable truth, appealing to their shared history. "Am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life long to this day? Have I ever been accustomed to do so to you?" The question cut through Balaam's rage, forcing him to pause and reflect on the years of loyal service this creature had provided. Their journey together was not new. Their bond, though that of master and beast, was long-standing. Confronted by this undeniable logic, Balaam could only admit no. In that single word, a crack appeared in his spiritual blindness, a dawning realization that something far beyond his understanding was at play. Something that had caused his faithful companion to act so uncharacteristically. It was in this moment of reluctant admission, of dawning comprehension, that the true revelation unfolded. The Lord, having already opened the donkey's mouth, now graciously opened Balaam's eyes. Suddenly, the spiritual realm that had been invisible to him became terrifyingly real. There, standing directly in the road, blocking their path, was the angel of the Lord, magnificent and fearsome, a drawn sword gleaming in its hand. The majestic presence, which the donkey had seen and reacted to all along, was now undeniably before Balaam. Overwhelmed by the divine confrontation he had so stubbornly ignored, Balaam instantly bowed his head and fell to the ground, prostrating himself in awe and terror before the heavenly messenger. His spiritual blindness was lifted, replaced by a profound and humbling vision of divine authority. As Balaam lay prostrate, his face pressed to the dust, the angel of the Lord did not soften its gaze. The celestial messenger's voice, now heard clearly by Balaam, cut through the silence of the desert path with a stern, unwavering authority. "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times?" the angel demanded, the question echoing not just Balaam's cruelty, but his profound spiritual blindness. "It was I who came out to oppose you, because your way is perverse before me." The divine judgment was clear. Balaam's path was not aligned with God's will, a truth he had been too stubborn, too greedy to discern. His rage and frustration, once directed at his loyal animal, were now revealed as a direct affront to the divine. The angel continued, revealing the true heroism of the abused animal. "The donkey saw me and turned aside before me these 3 times. If she had not turned aside, surely now I would have killed you and let her live." In this single, potent declaration, the roles were entirely reversed. The creature Balaam had beaten, the animal he had cursed, had been his unwitting protector, a humble instrument in God's hand, saving him from certain death. The donkey's seemingly irrational actions, her fear and stubbornness, were not defiance but divine obedience, a clear vision of the spiritual realm that Balaam, the supposed prophet, utterly lacked. It was a sobering truth, highlighting God's meticulous care, even for the most vulnerable of his creation. Overwhelmed by the revelation, his anger replaced by dread and contrition, Balaam could only confess. "I have sinned," he murmured, his voice thick with shame and fear, "for I did not know that you stood in the road against me." The weight of his transgression, his blindness to God's intervention, pressed upon him. He offered to turn back if the angel was displeased, a desperate plea for mercy and a recognition of the profound error in his judgment. This moment was a stark reminder of human fallibility, even among those called to speak for God, and the need for humility in the face of divine will. Yet, God's purpose for Balaam was not yet finished. The angel, having delivered its powerful rebuke and secured Balaam's repentance, gave a final, authoritative instruction. "Go with the men," the angel commanded, "but only the word that I speak to you, that you shall speak." Balaam was allowed to continue his journey, but with a profound and terrifying new awareness. His eyes, once spiritually blind, were now open to the unseen forces at play, and he was bound by an unequivocal divine mandate. He would proceed to Balak, but no longer as an independent agent. He would be merely a vessel for God's unerring word, a stark lesson in divine sovereignty and the perils of human ambition. The extraordinary narrative of Balaam and his talking donkey presents us with a profound first lesson. God possesses the limitless power and wisdom to communicate His will through the most unexpected of messengers. Why did the Almighty choose a common beast of burden to intervene in a prophet's journey? This question challenges our conventional understanding of divine communication. We often expect God to speak through grand pronouncements, through prophets, or perhaps through direct spiritual revelation. Yet in this ancient account, the very creature Balaam was riding became the vessel for divine truth. This reminds us that God is not confined by human expectations or limitations. His sovereignty extends to every facet of His creation, capable of orchestrating even the seemingly mundane to accomplish His perfect plan. Indeed, the Bible is replete with instances where God chose the seemingly insignificant or the utterly unexpected to manifest His presence or convey His message. Consider the burning bush, a common shrub in the desert, yet from its flames God spoke to Moses, initiating the liberation of Israel, as recorded in Exodus chapter 3, verses 2-4. Or recall Elijah, fed by ravens in the wilderness, 1 Kings chapter 17, verses 4-6, humble birds becoming instruments of divine sustenance. These accounts, much like the talking donkey, echo the Apostle Paul's words in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27, that God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. The donkey's voice, therefore, stands as a powerful testament to God's ultimate authority over all creation, including the animal kingdom. The donkey's miraculous speech offers more than just a lesson in divine communication. It provides a glimpse into God's profound regard for all His creatures. By giving a voice to this animal, God not only saved Balaam but also implicitly elevated the status of the animal itself, acknowledging its suffering and its crucial role. What does this imply about the spiritual awareness or perception of animals? While we do not claim animals possess human-like reason or the capacity for salvation, this event suggests a deeper connection between God and the animal kingdom than we often perceive. Perhaps animals possess a different form of perception, an instinctual or even spiritual sensitivity that allows them to discern realities invisible to the spiritually blind human eye. It invites us to ponder the intricate tapestry of creation, where every thread, every creature, holds a place in God's divine plan. This first lesson, that God speaks through the unlikeliest of messengers, carries profound implications for our own lives and our interactions with the world around us. Are we, like Balaam, sometimes so engrossed in our own plans or so spiritually dull that we miss God's warnings and interventions, even when they come through unexpected channels? Our pets, though they do not speak with human words, often communicate with an intuitive wisdom that can feel divinely inspired. They may alert us to dangers we cannot see, offer comfort in times of distress, or simply guide us to moments of quiet reflection. This story challenges us to open our spiritual eyes, to be more attentive to the subtle ways God might be speaking, not only through His written word and His Spirit, but also through the natural world and the beloved animal companions He has placed in our lives. The remarkable account of Balaam and his donkey reveals a profound truth. Animals can possess a perception that transcends our human understanding. The donkey, a creature often seen as simple, saw the angel of the Lord standing directly in their path, sword drawn, while the renowned prophet Balaam remained completely blind to the divine presence. This was not a mere animal instinct. It was a divine revelation granted to a creature, allowing it to perceive a spiritual reality hidden from human eyes. We often observe animals with senses far more acute than our own. A dog sensing a coming storm, a cat detecting a tremor before an earthquake, or a bird migrating with unerring accuracy. Could it be that their unique perception extends beyond the physical, at times offering a glimpse into the spiritual orchestrations of God? This extraordinary spiritual perception allows animals to act as vital instruments of divine protection and guidance, not just in biblical narratives, but often in our daily lives. Throughout Scripture, we find hints of animals serving such roles, from the ravens feeding Elijah in the wilderness to the lions miraculously sparing Daniel. In our modern world, we witness the unwavering loyalty of sheepdogs guarding their flocks, guide dogs leading the visually impaired, and service animals alerting their owners to medical emergencies. Many pet owners can recount instances where their animal companions seemed to know of impending danger or offered comfort at precisely the right moment, a profound bond that feels more than mere coincidence. These moments often speak to a deeper, divinely instilled connection, where animals become unexpected guardians. The donkey's desperate attempts to avoid the angel were not acts of stubbornness, but of profound, God-given protection. Had the donkey not turned aside, Balaam would have surely met his end by the angel's sword. This incident powerfully illustrates God's meticulous providence, often working through His creatures to fulfill His purposes and protect humanity. It reminds us that God's hand is not limited to grand miracles. He orchestrates even the seemingly small details through the natural world. From the smallest sparrow to the mightiest beast, God can employ any part of His creation as an agent for His will, a testament to His sovereignty over all things, always for a greater divine plan, often for our benefit or to redirect our misguided paths. What then is our role in light of this second lesson? It is to cultivate a deeper appreciation for the unique ways animals contribute to our lives. Have there been moments when your pet seemed to offer comfort precisely when you needed it most? Or perhaps their unusual behavior subtly diverted you from a potential mishap? We are called to recognize and respect the wisdom inherent in the animal kingdom, not merely as instinct, but as a reflection of God's intricate design and His capacity to work through all His creation. By being more attentive to the subtle cues and profound companionship our animals offer, we might just discover that they are, in their own silent ways, still acting as messengers and protectors, guiding us and enriching our understanding of God's wonderful world. The remarkable narrative of Balaam and his talking donkey reveals a third profound lesson. God's profound care and concern extend to all of His creation. It is easy to focus solely on Balaam's spiritual blindness and the angel's intervention to prevent him from cursing Israel. Yet within this divine encounter, a crucial detail emerges: God's concern for the donkey itself. The angel's words were not only a reprimand for Balaam, but also an explicit acknowledgement of the donkey's loyal service and its unjust suffering. "Why have you struck your donkey these 3 times?" the angel questioned, implicitly condemning Balaam's cruelty. In this moment, God gave a voice to the voiceless, demonstrating His justice and compassion for the most vulnerable of His creatures, affirming their inherent value in His eyes. This singular event is not an isolated anomaly, but resonates with a broader chorus of scriptural affirmations regarding God's love for animals. Throughout the Bible, we find numerous passages that explicitly demonstrate God's creation, sustenance, and delight in the animal kingdom. Psalm chapter 36, verse 6 beautifully declares, "Your righteousness is like the mountains of God. Your judgments are like the great deep. You save both man and beast, O Lord." This verse unequivocally states that God's saving care extends to both humanity and animals. Psalm chapter 104 offers a sweeping panorama of God's provision for all creatures, describing how He provides water for the wild donkeys, shelter for the birds, and food for the lions. Even the ancient wisdom of Job invites us to learn from the natural world. "But ask the animals, and they will teach you, the birds of the air, and they will tell you. In God's hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind." Job chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. These passages collectively paint a picture of a Creator intimately involved in the lives of all living beings. Furthermore, Balaam's story, set against the backdrop of God's universal care, connects to the prophetic vision of a renewed creation. The Scriptures offer a hopeful glimpse into a future where harmony is restored among all creatures. Isaiah chapter 11, verses 6 to 9 famously speaks of a time when "the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the young goat," depicting a world where peace reigns even in the animal kingdom. Isaiah chapter 65, verse 25 echoes this vision. These prophetic images, combined with Paul's words in Romans chapter 8, verses 19 to 21, where creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the sons of God and hopes to be set free from its bondage to corruption, suggest a grand cosmic redemption. If creation itself is destined for restoration, then animals as integral parts of that creation will surely be part of that glorious renewal. This offers immense comfort and hope for the future of all life under God's perfect rule. Understanding God's profound care for all creation calls us to reflect on our own role as stewards. The mandate given in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28 to rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground is not a license for exploitation, but a sacred trust to care for and protect. Our compassion for animals, particularly our cherished pets, is a beautiful reflection of God's own nurturing nature. Responsible pet ownership, showing kindness to all creatures, and advocating for their well-being are tangible ways we can honor our Creator. By embracing the stewardship, we not only act in accordance with biblical principles, but also deepen our connection to the intricate tapestry of life God has woven, mirroring His boundless love in our daily lives. We've journeyed through the extraordinary account of Balaam and his talking donkey, an event that, though ancient, holds profound truths for us today. What insights can we glean from this divine intervention? We explored 3 core lessons. First, God speaks through the unlikeliest of messengers. His power and wisdom are not confined by human expectation. He can use any part of His creation, even a humble donkey, to convey His will, and illuminate our spiritual blindness. Second, this narrative powerfully illustrates that animals can serve as instruments of divine protection and guidance. The donkey, in its spiritual perception, saw the unseen angel of the Lord, ultimately saving Balaam from certain death. This highlights how God often uses His creatures, by instinct or divine design, to safeguard and guide us, often perceiving dangers or offering comfort that we, in our human limitations, might overlook. Finally, Balaam's story reminds us of God's boundless care for all creation. His intervention to protect the donkey from unjust cruelty underscores His justice and compassion for every living being. This biblical truth resonates with other scriptures, affirming that God delights in and sustains all life, promising a renewed creation where peace reigns among all creatures. These lessons deepen our understanding of God's heart for His world. As we reflect on these profound lessons, we are reminded of the mystery and majesty of God's ways. While we may not always understand every detail of His plan for His creation, especially concerning the spiritual journey of our beloved animal companions, we can rest in the assurance of His perfect love and wisdom. Heaven, as the Bible describes, will be more glorious than we can possibly imagine, a place of complete joy and fulfillment in God's presence, where every longing will be satisfied.